Members of Parliament spending most of yesterday afternoon scrutinizing President Cyril Ramaphosa's Sixth State of the Nation address. He came under fire for asserting that it's the private sector and not government that should create jobs. In fact, EFF leader Julius Malema describing Ramaphosa as South Africa's worst post-apartheid president, while DA leader John Steenhuisen tabling a motion of no confidence in the entire cabinet. The SONA debate continues today, with the president expected to respond, as you know, tomorrow. Let's make sense of day one for you. Bring in Professor Siphamandla Zondi from the University of Johannesburg's Institute for Pan-African Thought and Conversation, who joins us via our video link this morning. And Prof, it's great to see you as always. Thanks very much indeed for making time. I mean, let me start with your broad take around what happens with SONA debates typically. I mean, there are more and more voices coming out asking the question about whether or not these debates do anything to move the country forward, outside of the mudslinging, the grandstanding, and the politicking that many people actually believe takes place when those MPs get to the podium.
Oh, yeah, good morning. We expected this, isn't it? We must remember the background is the performance of his party in the last local government election, and a sense from the alternative parties, or what is usually called opposition party, that they can be gaining ground, that its party is weaker, so therefore it's perceived to be weak. And the second context is that in his speech, very little about achievements, especially in implementing the specific priorities set out in 2018 in the first SONA. And very little to use as evidence that is gaining ground and base of performance is moving up. Because in politics, in our politics specifically, we can be gaining ground on two bases. One is on the basis that you have wide appeal, you manage the debate. But on the second basis, a more sustainable basis, is on the basis of your performance in government. And that's what is going to be pressure going to 2024. Campaigning, not with words, but campaigning with actions beginning now.
I want to hone in on what you started off by saying, where you say this is kind of expected. And that perhaps is where the issue perhaps may lie. It's predictable. We know that no matter what the president has said, ANC MPs are going to come to laud him almost with no critique. MPs are going to turn whatever he has to say. And I imagine the true account of any kind of State of a Nation address debate is finding an equilibrium, admitting where the president may have been right, whilst obviously giving some sobering critique around places where he lagged.
Definitely. It would be wise for those on the side of the president to admit that the whole of government still have difficulties progressing. Of course, they can't blame the former government that left so much difficulty for them that they've been fixing, and now maybe they'll be ready to move on. And then point out what the salient successes were. I mean, what are the specific success? And I remember that the president in 2020 he was able to point out that huge number of billions that were raised through the investment summits that took place in those early years. But you needed to find out something now that says, no, we can hang on this. We have accelerated land reform, or we've accelerated something. Responding to a crisis of COVID-19 is one thing, but having had a very forecast move on any of the priorities of the National Development Plan would have assisted the president to have a very interesting message, so that it's not, again, an aspirational message about what would happen in the future, but it is really grounded on, now that we've been here 3 years, almost 4 years, what have we been able to achieve? If it stretches beyond just 2021, it would have been helpful. I hope that the others who are responding and realize that theirs is not only always to respond to the other side, but sometimes it is to elevate the things that are perhaps not very clear in SONA's presence, or nuance those things that may be seen to have been misunderstood, such as a statement about it is not government that creates jobs, but it is private sector that creates jobs. It needs to be a nuance so that the president is not taken to task over those. But I see there's a bit of difficulties in the front desk.
Absolutely. Very quickly, Prof. You know, one of the stand-up moments, dare I say, from day one of the SONA debate was that exchange between Police Minister Bheki Cele and EFF leader Julius Malema. All kinds of allegations being made. Cele saying there was a plot between Malema and Kehla Sithole to have him removed from office. And the back and forth, I think, for many people brought home a concern about how sometimes these moments in the National Assembly are used for personal attacks more than ventilating issues of public interest. And by that, issues to do with the SONA, I mean. Is that a fair concern for those who are worried about that?
From my side as a keen observer of politics, I see failure of political strategy. It is obvious that the opposition is going to test your tenacity, your fidelity on your agenda and your focus and all that. They should not be easily distracted by innuendos about your personality, and then you also respond with dissent in the personal, and that doesn't help anyone. You can prove that there was someone out to get you, but then how does that improve the state of the nation? You ignore that and say we'll take it up in a coffee, but our focus is this. This is what we've been able to deliver from the security point of view. This is what we've learned. This is what we're busy working on, so that it doesn't descend to the personal. This government is not about the personal. Absolutely. It is about what you do for the collective.
Well, let's see how day two pans out later today. Thanks very much indeed for your take and your insights around how day one was. Professor Siphamandla Zondi from the University of Johannesburg's Institute for Pan-African Thought and Conversation. Once again, thanks very much indeed.